Joe Smith has come in. You spoke saying that it was inevitable probably that they might have a slow start to the season. I don't think so. These players are good enough. They're experienced enough. Brian O'Driscoll is Ireland's undoubtedly best player ever to put on the green jersey. It's time for these guys now to stand up. They're very proud of their province. They play for their province every single week. They wake up in the morning and they know they're lucky enough to put on a Leinster jersey. And it's these guys now, really, the likes of Jamie Heaslip, Rob Kearney, Nathan Hines, who's the Scottish international, will also have to stand up to up to what's going to be thrown at them tonight.
Yeah, and as I said, Dave, if it is a win for Leinster tonight, it would be the ideal start for them and a good fill-up going into Heineken Cup next week. But on the other hand, if it's a game they lose, I mean, the first game in the Aviva in terms of a competitive rugby fixture, going into Heineken Cup next week, I mean, to have lost 4 out of 5 from your first few games of the season, they would probably start to ask questions of themselves.
Yeah, I think they're probably asking questions already. I mean, to lose 3 out of 4 games in a row really isn't good enough for Leinster rugby. They're going into the Heineken Cup next week against a team called Racing Metro from France, who have a budget of 17 million to play with each year. And that's huge money to be banding about, and to be like for Leinster and Munster and Ulster and Connacht to a lesser extent to be where they are and what they've done in the competition to date is a huge achievement for them. But you're dead right. I mean, if they lose tonight, again, questions will be asked. The finger will probably be pointed at Joe Smith to a certain degree. He's brought in a completely new coaching structure, a new defence structure. Kurt McQuilkin, who would have been accredited with a lot of Leinster's success over the last few years, has gone back home. But at the same time, Joel Smith last week, he pointed the finger at the Leinster players, saying that they're missing tackles, individual tackles, and he's correct. I mean, you don't forget overnight how to make a tackle. You make a tackle; it's something that's in you. If you can either do it or you can't, and it's really a mental approach at this stage for them.
Yeah, now one of the main positives for Munster, I think, so far this season, Dave, has been the breakdown has been their performance there has been improved. The set piece as well has improved. But I think the acid test of that progress will probably come tonight, and especially speaking to Dennis Leamy and Tomás O'Leary this week, they were pointing to the fact that the main difference in the previous Munster-Leinster meetings, the last 4 games, has been the physicality. I mean, they admitted that they weren't up to it when it came to that, and that's probably a tough thing for a player to admit.
Yeah, it's a huge thing, and it's also a sign of a good individual and a great player that they can admit to these failings as well. You spoke about Dennis Leamy. I think Dennis Leamy has been, 80% of the reason why Munster are where they are now at the moment. Dennis just typifies what Munster is all about. He's born and bred in the province. He played in Rockwell School, came up through the ranks. He knows what it takes to be there, and he's been extremely unlucky with injuries, and to get back to where he is now and the way he's actually playing the game now at the moment, it will certainly come under the radar for Declan Kidney as well.
Yeah, and individual battles are probably more relevant in a game like this tonight than any other, and it's going to be Leamy against Heaslip at 8. That'll be a real decisive one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Dennis Leamy probably would have his eyes on the number 8 spot for Ireland. I think probably more Stephen Ferris's spot at number 6, and I think Stephen is actually injured at the moment, so it's a huge opportunity. But again, Paul, you're correct. You spoke about individual battles tonight, and you've got O'Gara and Sexton. Hopefully, if he's playing, we probably won't know about Sexton actually until about maybe 5 minutes before the kick-off, whether they're actually going to play him or not. But there is other battles in the field as well. Nathan Hines against Donegal O'Callaghan, 2 huge men. A lot of onus will be put on these guys to carry ball and get over the gain line.
Would you see as a possibility, as you mentioned there, Dave, that Leamy could oust Ferris from the number 6 shirt for Ireland? I mean, Ferris is injured at the moment and Leamy is playing some excellent stuff, so going into Six Nations, if Leamy does bring the form into that maybe he could get that number 6 shirt going into the World Cup.
I think it's going to be hard. Like Stephen Ferris, while he is injured at the moment, I think that's Dennis's only route in at the moment. I mean, Stephen Ferris is a magnificent player. He's playing extremely well. He's injured, so if Dennis gets in, he'll get his chance that way. But at the moment, the jersey is with Stephen Ferris, and he probably deserves it.
Yeah, just looking at the Munster starting 15 for tonight, Dave. Probably unlikely that there'll be too many changes to that going into next week. I think Keith Earls, it's probably going to be a week too soon for him in terms of coming back from injury. Would you be confident enough bringing that starting 15 over to play London Irish at the Madejski?
I would simply because it's the strongest 15 they have available to them at the moment. The only option probably would be bringing David Wallace into the actual starting 15. Again, David has been there for the last 10-12 years and is a huge player for Munster. In fairness to Alan Quinlan, 36 years of age, came very close to man of the match of the last 2 weekends, is playing extremely well. and it's his experience that he brings to the team alone is fantastic, and the younger players, who in my opinion have added a lot to the Munster setup this year as well. They follow him, so like wherever Alan will go, they will follow, and whatever he does, they will try to beat it and match it.
What have you made of the new signings Munster have brought in so far, Dave? I mean, Vian Dupree looks like he's going to really battle with Marcus Horn for the loose head prop position. He's in tonight ahead of Marcus. He's done very well so far this season. Johnny Murphy as well has made a great impression, 2 tries last week, and Sam Tuitupu's in there as well. Yeah,
they're good signings. I think they're very cute signings. I think it was what was needed. We had Jan de Villiers here last year. It didn't work out. I mean, people will say he played well towards the end of the season, but at that stage it was probably too late. It took him 3 months to settle in. At the start of the season, he couldn't even get his position on the field, and eventually, when they found him a position next to Keith Earls, he started playing well. But at that stage, it was too late. And what they've done now in bringing in these signings is that they've created opposition. They've created an atmosphere within the team that promotes competition within the squad, and it's very, very important. And also, what they've done in the coaching structure is they've brought in Paul McCarthy as full-time coach, a scrum coach. They've brought in Mick Galway as a mentor, and they've promoted Anthony Foley to assistant coach. And again, I go back to it. It's the homegrown roots. It's what Mick Galway can bring to the team in terms of motivational speaking, what Paul McCarthy can bring in terms of technicality to the scrum, and Anthony Foley, who we know is probably Munster's most famous son at this stage.
Yeah, no, we know obviously at this stage, Dave, that it's probably going to be a while before we see Paul O'Connell again. In fairness to Mick O'Driscoll, when he came in towards the end of last season in place of Paul, he did very, very well. But Donncha Ryan seems to have kind of muscled Mick out there. Would you be happy with Donncha going forward as a replacement for Paul O'Connell?
I would. I think he is the natural born replacement for him. Like, hopefully Paul will be back, and it will be a huge achievement for him to get back. Certainly this side of Christmas, and maybe after Christmas. We don't know. The rumours are mixed and varied, and it's very hard to put a finger on it. But Donncha Ryan has come in. He's young. He's enthusiastic. Like when he first came onto the scene, he was quite skinny, but his enthusiasm was immense, and that's what he brings to it. I mean, he's like another back row release playing. And then when you have the likes of Mick O'Driscoll sitting on the bench, ready to come into the fray at any stage, that is important. And I think what might come down to tonight is if you look at the benches and the strength and depth that Munster have on the bench, and they can bring on the likes of David Wallace and Mick O'Driscoll into the fray, that could be the difference in the end.
Yeah, now just in terms of tonight again, Dave, you were obviously no stranger to Munster-Leinster games during your own career. Played, I suppose, back then in front of a couple of thousand people. They've come on quite a bit now. It's going to be a record crowd for a Magners League game tonight, 50,000 people at the Aviva Stadium. That's a great indication of where Irish rugby stands, isn't it?
It is. It's fantastic. And if you look through all the other attendances that this one is now displacing, they've all been Irish games. They've been 47,000, 46,000, 42,000 and so on. And to have this game in the Aviva tonight, I describe it as the true christening for the new ground. It's a magnificent structure. The architectural work that's gone into it is fantastic, and the atmosphere that's going to be created tonight is fantastic. And all the other games that have kind of gone before it, the soccer games, they haven't really been filling the stadium. We had a Mickey Mouse rugby game up there between an under-20 side, but this is the real one. This is what it's going to be about, and this is going to be a true test of the stadium's character.
Just before we let you go, Dave, it's a big one, obviously, as we've mentioned already, for Munster next weekend in their opening Heineken Cup game against London Irish. That's going to be a very, very tough game. London Irish flying high in the Premiership at the moment. Can you see Munster getting a result over there? I can. I mean, like, the Heineken Cup really is what Munster are about. I mean, and the more you knock them, the more you challenge them, the more they'll come back and the harder they'll hit. And against London Irish, it's going to be a huge challenge. And even after that, they've got Claremont at home. So, I mean, realistically speaking, you could lose those two games and you could be out of the Heineken Cup before Christmas. But the way Munster are and the way they're built and the way their DNA is inputted into these guys is that the bigger the challenge, the bigger they will rise to it, and the more people question them, the more they will stand up and face those challenges. Yeah, just very finally, Dave, on tonight, it's a very tough one to call, but where's your own prediction going? I think Munster have to win it. I think it's too important for them to lose. I know we spoke about Leinster and they have to win it as well, but for Munster to lose four in a row to Leinster and not having scored a single try in any of those 4 games is something that's not right. And I think the time to set the record straight and put a small bit of pride back into that Leinster-Munster fixture is important, and I think the fans need it, I think the players need it, and I think it'll be a huge step in terms of getting to the knockout stages for the Heineken Cup. So I would say Munster win by 10 or more.